Hello and welcome to the Crypto Club and Digital Assets weekly catch-up on Zoom. It is Sunday, the 17th September 2023, and for those who've watched this show before, you'll know that we never quite know what we're going to be talking about. Some weeks it's about blockchain, crypto, DeFi, NFTs, ICOs, S2s, TGs, any other three-letter acronyms really. Sometimes we delve into the metaverse, stable coins, CBDCs, anything else related, really. The sessions are open to everybody, novices and experts alike. So if you're just beginning to get into this crypto space and you want to learn more, do come and join us at a future session. And there are details in the link below. If you're an experienced person and maybe you're running a project that you'd like to talk about, come along and share some more details. We now have our Gone in 180 Seconds sessions, which is where you have 3 minutes to talk about your product or capability. The idea is this isn't about phishing or scamming or trying to sell the latest pyramid scheme, but an opportunity for you to spend up to 3 minutes to talk about what your project is working on, what the solution is that you've delivered. The idea is that you don't have a whiteboard, you don't have PowerPoint, you just get to talk for 3 minutes. In the past, we've heard from people talking about real estate, digital asset provenance and security, and lots of other things as well. We hold these sessions every Sunday evening, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. UK time. As I say, they're open to everybody. So do come along at a future one. We record the sessions each week and they're available on YouTube to watch. So check those out as well. So with that, let's see who's going to come and join us today.
Hey, Gary, how are you?
Hey, I'm good, thank you. Just beginning to let some people in at the moment. How's it going?
Yeah, good, thanks.
Yeah, you enjoyed it so much last week, you decided to come back again this week, eh?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Excellent, that's good. I'll try and get you to do some more talking today so you can chat a little bit more about the things that interest you.
Oh, I'm happy to listen. Yeah.
That's good. I've got, I'm guessing it's Gabrielle's joined as well. Hey, Gabrielle.
Hi, hello, how are you?
Hey, I'm good, thank you. So letting a couple of people in and sorting someone else out who said, I'm trying to get in and they can't at the moment. Always the frantic thing with Zoom at the beginning of these sessions of people trying to connect. So Coda, what's keeping you interested at the moment in this space?
What's keeping me interested in this space? Yeah, I mean, going on from last week, talking about the usage of crypto almost in place of issuing shares for assets in in the quote unquote real world. Yeah, there's some more assets being issued in the space that I'm interested in. So I'm busy waiting for them to be released, and there's usually a little bit of a rush to claim them. These aren't very expensive assets. They're in the few thousands of dollars,
okay.
But there's quite a following, if you like, for people who'd like to get in and acquire a share of the asset. So I've been slowly accumulating and always learning. So
there is a lot, and I often say to people, it's like weather forecasting actually with meteorology. That the more you learn, the more you realise there is to learn, and you realise just how little you knew from the beginning type. And it's interesting as well. You're talking about tokenization of shares and assets and that kind of thing. Because I know we sometimes have Anthony Abel who set up TPX exchange, and they're doing a lot of stuff around digital assets and tokenization of them. And I've been asked to help a little bit about a project around tokenizing membership of a kind of a vehicle restoration project is probably the easiest way of describing it without giving too much away. So I think we're still very much on the beginning of thinking about how to use tokens to represent effectively, as you say, like digital shares of digital assets or physical assets as well.
Yeah, sounds fascinating. I think it's going to extend out all the way to, restoring a car. That sounds like a really good one, if that's what it is. Producing a movie. Music obviously is already quite popular. movies haven't really come in, or I don't know, maybe they have, but I've not come across any tokens around production of films or documentaries or movies. But with the democratization of, there's so many content platforms that want to purchase copyright to content. If someone hasn't already come up with it, I'm sure somebody else will.
Yeah, well, certainly I remember it was probably back in 2016, 2017. A guy I used to know in the London space, Nick Ayton, he was actually setting up that they were going to do their first crypto film that was filmed and funded through crypto. Sorry, it's funded through crypto, certainly. And I think he was doing a token raise against that. I don't think that ever completed. I think he discovered the hard way just how much hard work it is to actually finance and execute a film. But he was certainly doing stuff in that space, and there were others who were as well. And in terms of music, video, I think what I'm seeing at the moment is mainly tokenization around video clips. So bands, musicians, that kind of thing are beginning to get into that space. And that's where you're finding a crossover with the metaverse. So I know particularly in South Korea, there's a couple of bands who are doing crypto, metaverse, and all sorts of stuff. So I think it was there's a band called Blackpink, and they did a blended in-person and metaverse concert, which I suspect involved tokenization of some stuff as well. So all kinds of stuff like this is happening. So fascinating area. And we've been joined by Peter as well, who's managed to connect. And he's not on mute at the moment. Oh, yes, he is. Go on, come off mute, Peter, and say hi. Still can't hear you at the moment.
Technology, eh?
Yeah, we need to adopt sign language or something instead. Actually, with AI these days, AI should be able to look at all of our lips and actually give the voice for us anyway.
Yeah, crazy.
Yeah. And that's the other thing as well, actually, again, going back to the whole crypto, metaverse, tokenization and that, and Peter's looking a little bit frustrated, although it says he's off mute now.
It give me all the options, but not the on-off.
Excellent. This is why I like it. One of the microphones I've got has got a big button on it, which is great. But it's a big button that doesn't easily say on and off. It just flashes. And I can never remember whether when it's flashing, does that mean it's on or does it off type thing? So anyway, such as tech. Yeah, so sorry, Coda was just saying that there's a whole range of things around NFTs and tokenization in general. The car restoration one's quite an interesting one because it blends the idea of having enthusiasts, members, investors, and all sorts of stuff really. And it'd be quite an interesting one when that goes public, hopefully in the near future.
So that's all just private at the moment, issued to private people who are...
It is, yeah. It's for that particular one, they're just preparing all the paperwork. So they need to make sure they've got everything right before they go public with it. Yeah. But as soon as it is live, I'll probably get one of the people behind it to come onto this session and talk about it in person.
Oh, that'd be great. That sounds really interesting. I think with all these opportunities, as with any traditional opportunity, you're always looking at the people behind it, because coming up with a concept, issuing shares, issuing crypto, creating hype is an easy thing to do. And then, but you have to kind of like discern who's actually going to deliver the goods behind, end of the day.
Yep. And this is the whole thing that they always say about any project, whether it's crypto or anything else, certainly any startup project, it's a blend of having a good idea in something where there is a market and having a good team and good people and enough money and plenty of luck. And luck is the thing that for some reason you can, even if you do an MBA, they don't teach you how to have good luck. But yeah, the people certainly count for a lot.
Yeah, absolutely.
Peter, what's going on in your world? Anything exciting this week you'd like to share? Or are you just listening away?
No, I'm just looking at the stuff going on and trying to work out the geopolitics behind it all, with what's happening with the SEC and legislation, IMF and CBDCs by 2025, the gold, all the stuff with the BRICS, gold-backed currency, and just looking for movements around that.
Yeah, you've got still, there's a lot of ancillary legislation that's coming through that at first you think isn't connected. And then again, you start connecting the dots. So there's the, I've forgotten the correct title for it, but in the UK, there's the social media bill that's going through Parliament at the moment. And part of that included, but I think it's now been removed, the ability to have a backdoor entry into end-to-end encryption, which from a cryptographic point of view for cryptocurrencies is quite a harmful thing. Because you're suddenly saying, well, actually, we want the government to potentially have your private keys or access to them, which is not a great idea. And then, as you say, linking in with things like CBDCs as well, which those who don't know, central bank government digital currencies. Again, the concept around, do you really want your government or the central bank to have complete control over your finances? In such a way that it's programmable and that it's
Yeah, and that's the antithesis, isn't it, Gary? The fact that the IMF are saying all members have to have a CBDC by 2025 and everything's going to migrate over. So we can be on whatever chain we want, Bitcoin or whatever, but if you can't get onto the CBDC, you can't spend your money. So it's, as you know, there's been a lot around the off-ramps and on-ramps.
Yeah, that's where it's going to be interesting, because you may be aware that in the standards world, there's ISO 20022, which is a messaging standard and much more around the payment space and so on. And that's what's interesting. There's about 5 cryptocurrencies. So Ripple's XRP, Stellar Lumen's XLM, IOTA, XDC, I think, and another one which escapes me. Dash, I think, on one of the, are all ISO 20022 compliant, which simply means they're capable of carrying messages in certain formats. So be interesting. And hey, Elena, so you just joined us as well. Good evening.
Hello, good evening.
Okay. So, Peter, I come back to your point. There's so many of these things going on, and there's so many potential connections, both within the crypto domain and the finance world and society and a whole lot more. So, yeah, we're definitely living in very interesting times. It's interesting. Elena mentioned the other week, I appeared on a podcast with Joe. What's his surname? Joe
Dalton.
Joe Dalton. Sorry, yeah, Joe Rogan would be interesting, but no, Joe Dalton on his podcast published out of Ireland, which was from a recording I did with South Dublin Radio, I think it was, and we started getting into exactly some of the things that you're describing, Peter, and it's very much well, actually, have we kind of crossed the Rubicon? Have we gone beyond the point of no return with these things? And I think Joe was posing the question of, do we carry the risk of losing our liberties? And I said, no, we don't, because we've lost them already. We just didn't realize it. So, but that's probably taking the crypto world a little bit too far for now. So I'll rein myself back in from that. Come back to Coda for a moment. Just kind of curious again, in terms of stuff that you're looking at around tokenization of things, are you looking at particular areas, or is it just that you're generally taking an overall interest in like media and that kind of thing?
So how I got into this part of it. So my background is I've been an investor for, I don't know, 25 years across various segments. So started out in property, real estate, and then moved into more, I wouldn't say angel investing, but it was business investing. And then it went on to the online world, And that's when someone said to me, well, haven't you looked into crypto yet? And this was what, 2020, 21, around that time. And so I started looking into crypto and fell in love with ADA as a cryptocurrency for kind of like went down the learning journey. And then started looking at, I'd always had the belief that, to invest, you're going to pick something good and then hold on to it and don't mess with it. So it's quite boring, actually. And I slowly got involved in crypto trading, which was probably the worst thing I could have ever done because it's not for me. I appreciate that people probably can make money trading, but I can't. So basically, I did a bit of trading, and then I like, no, it's not for me, and I got out of crypto completely. And then, I don't know, a year or so ago, I was just looking through the charts. I was like, well, if I want to make a reasonable return in crypto, I can't look at the top 10 cryptocurrencies. So I started going all the way down the lists, all the way down to the thousands.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, okay, well, I'm just going to every day look at 2 or 3 of these tokens and see if there's anything that's remotely worthwhile, assuming it's all going to be garbage. And literally within the second day, I came across a token that's doing something in music and started to research and look with the team, and it slowly started to tick all the boxes. So I started picking up the token, and it's basically about it's helping musicians sell their copyrights.
Mm-hmm.
So a musician has a song that makes, let's say, $1,000 a month, for example. Then they can basically say, well, I'll sell 50% of my revenue, tokenize that, and then sell that to investors. That's the long and short of it. So this project was really piqued my interest because I'm a musician, I'm a coder, I'm an investor. So it started to tick all my boxes. And so I've been basically exploring. So that was the start of my journey in terms of, here's a business, right? Basically, the guys behind it are very successful in the music industry. They've been around for 12 years, and they're trying to take on the big record labels, right? To allow independent artists to raise money through issuing tokens for their current music and maybe future music.
Okay.
And that was like, this sounds like a good idea. And it started me on the journey of looking for other projects that are similar in terms of good team, using crypto, not for crypto's sake, but there's a real purpose there.
Mm-hmm.
And so, so that's what I'm currently doing, looking around. I haven't found anything else that really excites me as much. So there's lots out there, but it's hard, I think, to find a really good project to invest in. So my interest in crypto is purely from I love the technology, but I am looking at it from an investment standpoint, and I don't trade. I just find these projects that I really like and put some money behind them and sit and pray every morning.
Does that cover copyright or just distribution? Because that's, if you write music, one thing is getting it copyrighted so that you actually get something before you start to sell revenue from that. But that's interesting if you can record something and then tokenize that recording, so you effectively got a copyright. Is that
copyright is, well, if you create anything, you already have the copyright. There's nothing you have to do. Maybe what you're thinking about is trademark, which you have to apply for, but copyright is yours when you create something.
Yeah, it's my brother claims that he wrote 3 famous songs, but he put them in the studio and then people have used them, and 3 famous songs. So I've got one which is still in my safe because I thought I need to record that and then broadcast it to show it was published first. But it's just having that, like the sheet music or whatever, or the lyrics, to start off your blockchain or whatever.
Yeah,
you had it, now it's evolved, and then you can add to that.
Yeah, copyright is a very funny thing, right? Because copyright is it's very hard when you draw the line between I am using this piece of music creatively in my own song versus I'm actually outright copying it. and that's interesting. I mean, Ed Sheeran had a famous case in the US where they ruled in his favor, but it's a fine line.
He actually took his guitar into court, didn't he?
He did, yeah.
He played, I think it was 3 pieces of music to demonstrate particular chords in a particular sequence.
Yeah, exactly.
Because this is a fascinating thing about where does copyrightable material begin and end. So this is, if you think about how much music we hear day to day, which has got samples that you go, actually, that sounds like it's out of something else. And that's because, if I remember correctly, you're allowed to reuse a certain number of seconds of someone else's material without causing a breach. But when you go over that, now you think, okay, that's measurable these days. You just set a watch and it's 3 seconds or whatever. But you've got the complexity of, say you've got a piece of music and it's just the drums that you're taking the element from, or just the woodwind, or just the guitars, or whatever. So copyright starts becoming quite complicated quite quickly, I think. And then the additional thing is in terms of the revenue, because you got this whole thing. I didn't realize just how complex revenue distribution in music is, such that if you're a musician and you have a piece of music and it's played on terrestrial radio, so like Radio 1, broadcast media, whatever, you receive a certain fee each time that music is played. If that same music is played by Radio 1 but through a digital channel, so they do it as BBC iMedia or something like that, you receive a different fee. And if it's broadcast via a rebroadcast into a chain store or something, it's a different fee. And there's all these things that it's amazing just how different the revenue model is depending upon which mechanism someone has listened to your music or it's been broadcast on. So yeah, it's fascinating stuff. And it's one of those things that it's kind of one of those things that you think, you know what, a smart contract on a blockchain could deal with all of that. Then you've got the additional complexity that once you've worked out what the revenue from playing that piece of music is, of how you then distribute it to the musicians in the band or the producer or the whatever, and what the revenue split is from that, so that introduces more complexity. And then finally you throw in taxation liability, because that might vary on jurisdiction. But all of it, I agree. I think it's a particularly fascinating use case for having smart contract enabled music distribution, first of all. So having the blockchain as the ability to be the actual medium by which music is published, the digital copyright element of controlling that, and then the whole payments and revenue streams around that. I agree. I had a chat a few years ago with Imogen Heap about this, and she's a musician. She was the first musician to put a piece of music on the blockchain, and she was involved in a project, I think it was Mycelium, around this whole thing. She started describing it to me one day. It just blew me away just how complex it is.
Yeah, it's the same as publishing, though. As an author, you get a book, hard copy, soft copy, electronic media, going to database, and even different countries. The royalty you get from India is different from the royalty in the UK. So, and if you're a co-author, so it's not particular to music. It's more just to music because we deal with it every day. But that'll be more and more tokenization.
Well, I think the other thing is that the licensing with music is slightly different because it's based on you have to pay a fee every time it's played. Whereas every time someone reads a book, they don't repay the author for it. And that's again where smart contracts really could work really, really well. Because with a book, the only revenue you receive from it is when it's initially published and you get the sales from it. If that book then goes onto the second-hand market, the author doesn't get any of the benefit from it.
So, Gary, on the British Computer Society, which I think you're a member of, students there. They've published all their books online now in the library. So my book's there, and I get paid per read. Access.
That's more of a podcast model, isn't it? That's far better.
Well, it is saying people don't want to splash out and buy this much, but the corporate members get access to the library. But each time somebody accesses that title, it ticks one. So that would be a nice model. Wouldn't have all the books there. When people access them, they pay a fee rather than buy the thing for £25-30 and have it sat on your shelf gathering dust.
Well, you think about music streaming, it works that way, doesn't it? Spotify and that kind of thing are exactly that. You no longer buy the album. You either pay a subscription fee or you pay a per listen fee. So yeah, and again, it definitely offers the opportunity to start using the likes of blockchain to enable all of that. Not that I'm trying to squeeze in a piece of technology for the sake of it, but it does seem to fit quite well with that.
Well, I think that's the nirvana, is passive income, and it's how you secure it without having a team of lawyers chasing stuff.
Yep. Cool. So, yep, definitely an interesting space. So I don't know, we're chatting a while. There's a number of topics covered there, really. And it shows, again, the power of blockchain with like digital media, copyright, distribution fees, revenue, all that kind of thing. I don't know, anyone got anything else they want to add at this stage? Or any comments or anything they'd like to share this week? Elena's shaking her head in advance of me asking her.
Not yet, but maybe later.
No problem.
Can I ask, guys, somebody that mentioned about the blockchain for vehicle, whether that was a car or a classic car or whatever, but I was in terms of life, like not a digital twin, but a lifetime tracking of the vehicle. When you come and you're trying to find your service records and your repair records, and even fractional ownership of classic. It's interesting, isn't it? To get away from these mounds of paper that I can see on my desk and trying to get the audit trail for what happened when, and you come to sell something, you're trying to dig out all your records.
Well, it's interesting. I had a conversation with someone recently about that. If you look at how it works at the moment with a motor vehicle, first of all, the manufacturer registers it in some way in a particular country. And so in the UK, that's the DVLA. And then when the vehicle has its first sale, then there's an entry with the DVLA to say you are the registered keeper. And we could have a conversation another day about the difference between what a registered keeper and an owner of a motor vehicle is, but that's a rabbit hole in its own right. But the really interesting bit is not just about vehicle ownership and registration, but things like servicing records. So years and years ago, if you had a car, you would have a tax disc, which was a physical thing that went in the windshield that showed that you were paying road tax. You had a logbook, which was a sheet of paper or soft sheet of paper which showed ownership. And you had a dealership handbook, which every time the car went in for a service, it got a stamp on it, and it showed that you were having your car serviced regular intervals and everything. All of that's gone online, and the dealership details are now held by the dealer, which means all of a sudden you've no longer got the ability to separate yourself from the dealer. So once your car goes out of warranty, you'd have thought the dealer would lose all interest, but now they are still keeping the records of stuff that are, it's adding value to your vehicle by proving it's been serviced and that, but you've no longer got ownership of the maintenance record. That's where, again, some companies were looking at, well, could you put that on a blockchain so that as an owner of a vehicle, you also own the data around that vehicle as well. So I seem to remember there was a project, I think it was in Australia. In fact, Everledger, I think, were doing it in Australia, which was about motor vehicle registration. But that was to do on the manufacturer side. And I think they were looking at maintenance records and that kind of thing as well. Because you really want it as an owner of a vehicle, you want to be owning that dealership or that service record. But at the moment, it doesn't work that way.
Yeah. If you've ever lost it, I still keep my physical book stamped, but I lost one, and you get another book. It says duplicate, and it's got all perforations in to say, well, this isn't the original. And then you've got things like the V5s, and you get your V5 stolen on your registration document. They've got your car. That's the document. And there's no security on it. Mine's in my filing cabinet behind me, So to keep that all together with a blockchain security sounds good, especially when you start to sell it. If you're going to crypto sell, go straight to a smart contract.
And this is, again, what we were talking before about tokenization of real world assets. Well, the ability to have all of the data associated with that asset as part of, whether you grant access to that through a smart contract via an NFT, so that the NFT not only confers ownership of the asset, but provides access to the data associated with that asset. Which means you've now got a new way of registering who the owner of a car is. So that could still go on a blockchain, but that NFT or some of the token could also grant access to any documentation relating to that vehicle. And then you can do clever things like you could set it so that only the owner of the NFT plus certain designated authorities can access the data behind stuff. So again, that gives you the ability to be able to demonstrate to whoever needs it that, yes, it was service, yes, the mileage was this, yes, it is properly registered, insured, maintained, everything like that. Yeah. Lots of potential, definitely.
And even do your carbon credits or your carbon tax.
Yes. And then you link it all into a mobile app. And then when you're driving along and your car is automatically picked up by the CCTVs going into London, and it'll automatically then check as to whether you're ULEZ compliant. And if you're not, the car will switch off and stop moving. Or it will say you haven't paid the ULEZ fee yet.
Yeah. It's tracked anyway, so you don't need the cameras, which 80% are being taken out on a daily basis.
It does seem in London there's a new hobby at the moment, which is camera scrimping or whatever. So
if only it was so easy to escape from the CBDCs.
Well, this is again, it's where, as a technologist, I'm really excited by the potential that all these things offer, whilst equally, in equal measure, horrified of the potential on a societal basis that those kind of things could do. And it always comes back and say to people, the technology is not the problem, it's who's controlling the technology that's the problem. So if we've got benevolent leaders, then we're okay. Tend not to get benevolent leaders for very long, though. So we should see where that goes.
Now, as you say, Gary, it's we haven't lost our freedom. We never had it.
Yep.
Just coming to realize it now.
Yeah. All we're losing is the belief that we had it. Yeah. I think that's it. So anyway, on to more interesting things. Is anyone watching what's going on in the crypto world at the moment? I know that Token 2049 is taking place this week in Singapore. So I expect there'll be a few people who sometimes come onto this show who will be out in Singapore watching the Formula One this weekend. And then it'll be lots and lots of news about crypto and developments and what Binance is doing and everything. So I don't know if anyone's heard any other news of any interest. But everyone's going to be silent again. So Elena's got it sussed here. You watch Elena and she's, no.
It is something related to that, Gary, which is the custody. I see Ripple bought a custodian. Basically, the way the legislation's been set up in the States looks like they're going to force you to go through broker dealers, etc. You can't buy your own crypto. You got from a issuer. You've got to go through a broker dealer, etc. Like that model. And then, as you know, with wallets, you've either got things online, like myself, dumped money in FTX, Coinbase. lost money, or you put it on a cold wallet and then can't remember how to get at it, or you use a custodian. And as we tokenize things, then you're going to have the big players coming in to hold that.
Yeah. So this is where I
stock in PolySign, which was, they bought some big guns into that. Was the former CTO from Ripple, and I thought I'll have some of that. Then Ripple's bought another one, and they've been trying to set themselves up a bit like all the a while back when the mobile phone, the landline, your TV, they went to triple play, quad play, and they wanted to own the pipe to your house.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the same with PolySign. They want to keep all your assets in a wallet with them.
And that's where I think a couple of growth areas are definitely going to be around the crypto wallet space. And that will link in as well. In the UK, there's the UK Bank of England is doing the research around central bank digital currencies. And one of the things they're doing as part of that is a crypto wallet equivalent type thing. So an app on your phone that allows you to manage your assets. But yeah, I think the really interesting growth area is around digital asset custody. And that's a space I've been operating in for a while. Because at the moment, if you look at the traditional money world where you've got cash and bank deposits and all this kind of thing, well, if you lose cash, too bad. You drop it on the streets or whatever, you accept you've lost it. If you lose access to your bank account, then you can get in touch with your bank. Okay, these days that involves going on to a call centers waiting list for ages and ages, but eventually you'll get through, or you'll get an email or whatever. If something goes wrong on the crypto side of things or with your crypto wallet, there's no one to go back to. And so I think that definitely there's going to be a growth in custodial services, certainly for those who are less digital savvy, for example. So it might just be that the banks will offer it as an extended service. We'll look after your fiat money, we'll look after your crypto as well. That might be one thing. But the wider thing around looking after your cryptocurrencies, your crypto tokens, potentially your CBDCs, how do you recover the keys that give you access if something goes wrong? What happens if your mobile phone gets stolen? All of these areas are fascinating. That's why I've been involved in something behind the scenes that is putting in place solutions around that. And then extend it further. We're all comfortable with the idea that we might lose our keys or we might lose the wallets, and we need some contingency about that. What happens if we lose ourselves, as in we die, or we become mentally incapacitated, and digital inheritance and that?
It's not an if, it's just a when.
Yeah, absolutely. It's one of those definites. And so, one of the projects I was involved in was around digital asset inheritance, and that's going to be launching, I think it's beginning of October, it's scheduled for that at the moment. And there's a few other companies as well who I've been speaking to who are offering digital asset inheritance, digital asset custody, digital asset recovery. And I'm expressing it as digital asset rather than just cryptocurrency, because it extends beyond just cryptocurrency and tokens to things like if you've got digital music, if you've got videos, if you've got images. People have got these days a legacy of photos, which when they die, they kind of like them to be passed on in some way. At the moment, people have got photo albums, or they had photo albums, and you pass those on. So as we move into the digital world, it's going to be more of a need for that as well. Or is this just set off the alarm bells with you, Peter?
I was just thinking about that. Yeah, you could wrap it all up, because when somebody dies, and we've all had somebody who dies there, and I was trying to sort my stuff out, and it's really, you've got a digital identity which should tag everything and point it through.
Yep.
So if I die, it's what have I got? Where's a list of it? Where's the passwords and stuff? But if it's going to happen, how does it happen? But then we get into what you're talking about. Do you want somebody, even the state, having access to everything you have? Seeing what they did with the Canadian truckers, where they just switched the banks off, switched the truck licenses off. switched the welfare off for the families, switched everything off, and that's without a digital ID. And they didn't even have a chip. You know, they just basically picked up the mobile phone as it went past, and through the back door with the telecoms, they knew the owner was, and then they do a search, and they've got all the data around them straight away. Yeah.
So in terms of keeping on the legit side for a moment, if you think about how a lot of people look after their assets at the moment, is they'll probably do something similar to what you've got in your background. They'll have a filing cabinet, and there'll be a red box or a black box in it, which will have, all my important stuff is in here, do not open type thing. We need the equivalent of that in a digital form. And we then need to also put a wrapper around that of who can access it and under what circumstances. So, in the UK, and it's somewhere in many other countries as well, when you die, there is a defined grant of probate process, and then how your will is executed and how your estate is distributed in that. So we were looking all around wrapping that into like blockchain, smart contract type stuff, so that you'd have an executor of a will, but also, 2, 3, 4, however many you want it, additional recovery agents who, in the event that you die or you become incapacitated, participate in the recovery and access to that information in some way. And in some environments, if the government mandated that they needed access, then they could potentially be one of those participants. Whereas in other countries, that's exactly what some people don't want.
Well, it's certainly not a problem you want to leave. A friend of mine, lady, died about 6 weeks ago, turbo cancer, dead before she even started. Parents have come over mother's come from China. Dad's died of cancer a couple of years ago. A mum and a brother have come over, and they're trying to work out what assets she's got and where they are, and trying to get powers of attorney. And them coming over from China, not even speaking the language, it's an absolute nightmare.
Yeah.
So I'll help you with what I can, because I have been through this process with my parents. But she's got a flat, she's got savings, she's entitled to certain benefits, she's been employed here, etc. And they don't know where to start.
So think how much easier that could all be. And, bundle together things, because anyone who's had to deal with the estate of a family member or whatever will know the aggro of things like having to notify companies, pensions companies, this kind of thing, of someone's death, tracking down bank accounts, all that. If all that stuff was actually available in a way that was controlled and in a single, on a blockchain again, that could be quite powerful. So yeah, interesting stuff. And Peter, it looks like you've frozen at the moment, so I'm guessing that you've gone offline. Elena, anything exciting happening in your world, crypto related at the moment with blockchain, or are you just keeping an eye on things?
Everything is quiet. That's why I come here to learn about the new things.
Well, I'm hoping that next week we may have someone who was in Singapore this week. So Singapore, I think it runs from the 19th to the 22nd or something. But there's a really big conference that's held every year, Token 2049. And I'm guessing quite a few people are out there. So maybe they'll come back with some stories about what's going on.
I'm sure they will be full of impressions.
Yeah. But meanwhile, there's all the standard stuff. There's various legal cases going on in the crypto world. There's ever more regulation. From the beginning of October in the UK, there's an additional regulation around the marketing of crypto assets, which means anyone who markets crypto assets is going to have to be registered with the UK FCA. I can see more of that going on in other countries as well. CBDCs, which Peter was talking about, central bank digital currencies. There are more projects going on looking at that. I think the Bank of International Settlements, which is an overall body that looks after banks around the world, they're looking at this stuff as well. So yeah, there's lots of things happening.
As always.
Exactly. So.
When we say crypto assets, for those people who don't know, we mean everything cryptocurrency and NFTs and everything else.
That's right. So I actually break down crypto assets into three things. So the first is cryptocurrencies. So these are native cryptocurrencies. These are the cryptocurrency that are associated with a specific blockchain. So there's a couple of examples: Bitcoin, and Ethereum. The Bitcoin blockchain has got Bitcoin, Ethereum blockchain's got Ethereum. So that's cryptocurrencies. Then you've got crypto tokens. So this is typically what NFTs are. So the letter NFT is non-fungible token, and that's where it's a token on a blockchain associated with a smart contract that grants certain rights and that kind of thing. So you see that with things like loyalty points and that kind of thing. So Starbucks in the USA, that they've launched a program called Odyssey, and that is an NFT-based loyalty card system. So that's the second type of crypto asset, which is crypto token. And then the third type is an actual crypto asset. So that is a digital representation of a physical or digital item. So this is where, when we're talking about things like fractional ownership and that kind of thing, so a crypto asset might be a digital share, or it might be the representation of a fractional share of something physical, so gold, property, or whatever. But the problem is crypto tokens, crypto assets start overlapping with each other in terms of what they are and what they mean. So this is why I call everything crypto assets. So that includes cryptocurrencies and also anything that's smart contract based. So NFTs, ERC20s, which are another type of token, anything like that, really.
So ERC20
Yep.
is a standard for cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin and Ethereum, isn't it?
No, it's not. So ERC20 is specifically on the Ethereum blockchain, and it is a standard around how a particular type of smart contract is written. So ERC20s were initially used for what were called ICO tokens, so initial coin offerings. So I can't actually remember any ERC20 tokens at the moment, but they were used for fundraising quite a lot. Mm-hmm. So within the Ethereum environment, you got things called EIPs, which are Ethereum Improvement Proposals. So this is where someone says, hey, wouldn't this be a cool idea? Let's code this. And you've got an EIP. Then you've got ERC, the letters of which escape me what they actually stand for now. But it's a standard. So an ERC20 standard is the standard structure that you would get for a fundraising token. ERC721 is another token standard, which is what NFTs are. And then you get the complicated one. There's another one called the ERC1155, which is kind of a mix between the two. And there's various other things as well. I tend not to get into it too much. I just mention them in passing, and then you can forget all about them.
Well, we don't really need to know them to be using the technology.
That's right, but it can be quite useful at times. That if someone says, "Oh yeah, I'm buying a cryptocurrency," and then you discover that it's actually a crypto token. So remember, a cryptocurrency is a native cryptocurrency. So there's only one of those for each blockchain, whereas ERC20 contracts, there can be lots of them. So probably several of these icons, I can't remember which ones now, will be ERC20 tokens that all run on the Ethereum blockchain. So you can have over 100 different tokens all running on the Ethereum blockchain, but there's only one Ethereum cryptocurrency, which is ETH on the Ethereum blockchain, or ETC on the Ethereum Classic blockchain. Mm-hmm. So I just had a note through to Peter to say that it dropped off. So so it gets confused, but you're right in many ways. It gets to the point where you end up learning these things well enough to realize you don't need to know about them. Mm-hmm. Ultimately.
And then the second type of crypto assets, crypto tokens, are NFTs.
Correct. So that's an example is on the Ethereum blockchain, ERC-721, which is the
721.
So that's the standard for NFTs on Ethereum. There are other blockchains that have NFTs on them as well, and they've got different standards.
Mm-hmm.
So ERC is Ethereum specific.
And then the third time, the digital representation of a physical object.
Yeah. So that might
be. This is also an NFT, isn't it?
Possibly. It depends. So
okay. You did say that the second and the third type overlap a lot.
Yeah.
But they are kind of the same.
So this is where the word fungible comes into play here. So the definition of what fungibility is. So a £10 note or a €5 note is fungible because one note is worth the same as another note. They're interchangeable, and unless you particularly like collecting the serial numbers on them, there's nothing unique about them. So they're fungible, as in they're exchangeable. The same if you have a digital share in gold, for example, where it might be that you've got a token that represents an ounce of gold or a kilo of gold or whatever. You don't actually own a specific ounce of gold. You just own the weight of it or whatever. So that makes it fungible. Now, if you've got an NFT, so a non-fungible token, that might be that token represents a particular gold medallion or something that is in a safe somewhere. So that's non-fungible, that's unique, and that's not changeable. So if you've got something that's a digital share, shares are usually fungible. One share is the equivalent of another share in the same company or the same project. So that's where the slight difference can be. So things like membership schemes, loyalty schemes, they tend to be fungible, as in, £5 worth of Starbucks loyalty points are worth £5. It doesn't mean you're entitled to that particular cup of that particular coffee and that kind of thing. Does that make sense?
Yeah. It does.
I don't know, Coda or Gabrielle, if you want to add anything in on there, by the way, if you think I'm saying anything wrong or if there's anything I'm missing, do feel free to add in.
No, I think it's great. It's always good to rehear these definitions again. I like to think of a NFT as an NFT is basically a crypto token with an issue of one. So only one person can ever have it in their wallet at one time. So, whereas crypto, other currencies and tokens, you would create, 100 million token. Each one can be divisible 100 million times. And so many people could have any number of tokens in their wallet. But an NFT, there's only one token, and therefore only one person can ever own it.
Yep.
So that always helped me and helps me explain it to my friends when they ask me, "Hey, what the hell you're doing?" It's like that helps. But no, it's great to hear your, the 721s and the ERC20s. And interesting, a lot of other blockchains basically followed suit.
Yep.
If you like for example, the Binance, or it's not the Binance, it's BNB, isn't it? Is it?
Well, it's the Binance chain. So BNB is the cryptocurrency.
Yeah, that's it.
That's it's on it. Yeah.
So the Binance chain basically copied Ethereum like for like, because Ethereum was open source, and so you've got the BRC20 standard for creating tokens on the Binance chain. Cardano have their own. I don't know what they call theirs, but they have an ERC20 converter, which is like, you're running a token on Ethereum or Binance, you can move that token to Cardano through their converter, for example. And a lot of different chains have different methodologies. But you're right, they all call them different things. But I think a lot of them have followed that RC20 and they just change the first letter, don't they?
Yep, which is good. It makes it fairly consistent. The only thing that I'll throw into the mix that will probably add confusion, for which I'll apologise in advance, is that you're right in terms of saying that an NFT, there's only one of it. However, you can also have NFT collections.
Oh yes.
So it's a bit like having a limited edition print that you can have 100 of them. But they're still unique, exactly as you say, within that. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, how I'm buying the copyright is that they're creating. So if the value of the copyright is 50,000, they're creating a cryptocurrency or crypto token with 50,000 tokens, basically. So each one of those they're calling an NFT, which is basically like a share. So yeah, it's like, well, where do you draw that line? But they are undivisible, so you have to trade. There's only 50,000 of them. They're not divisible. So yeah, interesting.
Yeah. And Elena, the one that really starts hurting when you think about it too much. So you've got fungible tokens. So these are things that are completely interactive, don't make any difference. It's just like money kind of thing. You've got non-fungible tokens, which is where they're unique. There's only one of it, and so on. What you can also have is you can have collections, which kind of blend the two. So imagine it where you've got a set of NFTs that represent digital artwork. Okay, so each NFT represents ownership of a piece of digital art. Now go and put all of that digital art into a virtual art gallery and have a token that represents ownership, fractional ownership of that art gallery. Okay, so you've now got individual NFTs that represent ownership of individual pieces of art. Then you've got another token which is fungible, because you can break it up and have partial ownership of that art gallery that contains those pieces of art.
And is that right is it correct that this token is of ERC 1155 standard? Correct,
exactly right. And so if I remember correctly, an ERC 1155 allows a collection of fungible and non-fungible tokens.
Right.
I think I got that right. So the three main ones, certainly on Ethereum, to remember are ERC20, which is for fungible tokens, so things that are interchangeable, 721 non-fungible tokens, so one-to-one basis, and 1155, which is a wrapper, which allows collections of tokens which may be fungible or non-fungible.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Great. You're very good at classifying things and explaining.
I'm just hoping that I'm remembering it all correctly as well. I think that was right. I should really go away and read about these things a little bit more, because there's some things I remember and then I start forgetting them. So, but hopefully that's of use for everyone watching as well. And if I prove to be incorrect with any of that, please do come back and let me know. So, well, with that then, I think we've pretty much covered everything for the day then. There's nothing else coming out. There's no other questions. So I was going to suggest that we finish for the day. And I was going to say thank you, everyone, for coming along today and listening and watching. And if anyone's watching it on YouTube afterwards, click like, subscribe, blah, blah, blah type thing. But thanks, everyone, for coming along today.
Thank you very much. See you next week.
Have a great one, folks. Bye for now.
Thanks, Gary. Bye-bye.
Bye now.